Hi everyone. Thank you, Li Kang. Thank you, Simin. So today we will be talking about the gift of life, Kington Isotonic. So if you missed out my sharing from last week about the molecular reform therapy concept, what you can do is you can go over to YouTube and search ELKEN Story. Go to our channel and you will be able to find the talk that I've given about the MRT concept from last week. So English, Malay, and Chinese videos are available. So let's have a look at what the gift of life, Kington Isotonic is. And before we get into it, let's have a look at what are the basics that helps to maintain our body functions. And not sure if you guys are in agreement with the saying, but do you know that to maintain life and health is to maintain balance? So what type of balance? Is it like the falling down type of balance? So no, it is actually known as the balance within your body, which is known as homeostasis. Homeostasis, so which refers to the ability of an organism to maintain the internal environment of the body within limits that allow it to survive. So actually, our body controls many processes to maintain its internal environment. And what do we mean by maintain? Actually, it's like, for example, like our blood sugar levels, blood pressure, or even our body temperature, all of them have a normal levels, right? So maintaining them in the normal range is what is known as homeostasis. And actually, our body needs different functions and so as to maintain the internal environment. The basics that we need to maintain daily is, so here are a few. The first one is water and salt. So actually the salt aren't the white ones that we eat, but actually they're all the types of minerals that goes into our body. And those minerals that are in our body are known as salt. And the third one is temperature. And fourth is blood glucose. So these are the four main things that we need to maintain balance for. And we might probably be thinking like, oh, for water, we drink water every day, right? And for salt, we eat minerals, right? And for sugar, if we're not unhealthy, we basically technically wouldn't care much about it. But actually, usually when our body is imbalanced, it means that we have already fallen ill. So for example, if our body temperature maintains around 36 to 37 degrees, we would say that we are healthy, right? But if the temperature goes past 37, you will be considered as having slight fever. And so this is why we say that when we have an imbalanced internal environment, it's maybe because due to some allergies, or we have fallen ill, or heat stroke. And this includes water as well. And if we lack water in our body, many issues would surface. In short, if the atmosphere in our body is imbalanced, we can say that we are sick or ill. The basics that I mentioned earlier, everyone's probably thinking like, oh, those are the basics. We can obtain those really easily. We can reach those range very easily, right? But actually, many people often overlook the importance of balancing water and salt. Many would think that, so actually many are not able to reach the proper intake of water and minerals and to balance the water and salt within our body. So just think about it. When we have an emergency, right, and got sent to the hospital, doctors would always give us like an IV drip, like maybe salt or sugar water, depending on the situation. So for many that cannot be treated with medication, and when we simply just want to maintain our body's homeostasis, we would just use water and salt to achieve that. So because actually our whole body needs water and salt to be balanced. Why? Because when water and salt is imbalanced, it would affect our body's functions and responses. For instance, our nervous system, like it would affect our brains and nerves. If our salt levels is imbalanced, we might be dehydrated. And actually balancing salt levels can maintain water levels as well. And having balanced water levels supports muscle contraction because sometimes when we lack salt, we might contract when it's not supposed to contract, and it might not contract when it's supposed to contract. So when that happens, we would have cramps. And besides that, having a balanced water and salt levels also helps in pH balance. And this is why if we have imbalanced water and salt, it would affect our whole body. Because our nervous system controls our whole body and delivers message. So this is why water and salt is important, because if we don't have a balance between the two, our body wouldn't function normally. What could influence the balance of internal environment? And here are the six common ones. The first one is diet. How do we obtain water and salt? They're from intaking them, right? Like from food or from beverages or from water. So in our dietary intake, are we actually getting enough minerals and balanced nutritions? And as for water, right? Are we drinking enough plain water, or are we just like consuming beverages such as coffee or tea? And another one is exercising, physical activities. So let's say we do exercise a lot, but we forget to keep dehydrated or replenish on salt after exercising. So this would cause imbalanced water and salt in our body. And in general, it would affect our energy and performance as well. And at times when we feel tired or no energy, it's often because the water and salt in our body is imbalanced. So actually, it's not just about replenishing on water after exercising. Staying hydrated before exercising is really important as well. And the other one is infections. Getting some sort of infections would also lead to dehydration or lack of salt. For instance, these infections might cause you to vomit or have diarrhea. And one good example is if you get dengue. Some common symptoms are like vomit, diarrhea, or a drop in platelets. And all these are symptoms of having imbalanced body atmosphere. And actually, for the COVID-19 virus that we are having now, it would also make us have an imbalanced body atmosphere. And if you have balanced water and salt levels, our body would have a balanced internal environment. And if you have a balanced internal environment, our whole body functions would function properly. And so in general, you wouldn't get sick. So the next one is toxins. Like in our daily lifestyles, right? We are often exposed to toxins such as through air, water, or food. And the most common one is polluted water. Because if we are often exposed to polluted water sources, it will lead to like heavy metals. And if those heavy metals get into our body or our nervous system, they're actually very hard to eliminate, and it would affect our body's homeostasis. And another one is mental health. Let's say if you're always stressed out, the salt you deplete would surpasses other people. And this would easily lead to imbalance. And since you're already lacking, right? Yet you're still so stressed out all the time. Actually, when that happens, you need higher dosage of it. Yet you're unable to replenish it. And when this happens, some mental health problems will surface. For instance, depression. And all these have something to do with our body lacking certain minerals. The last one is aging, which is hard for us to control. As our body gets older, our functions for sure would have some certain abnormalities, right? And this is why elderlies often have too high or too low salt levels when they go for body checkups. And this is because their body is already starting to weaken, like the function started to weaken. But if you obtain a balanced amount of water and salt levels in your body, the aging process wouldn't occur as quickly. And the next question, if I want to balance my body's internal environment, how does live plasma help with restoring a balanced internal environment? Before I answer this question, we first need to study about the product. Actually, the history of the product, we need to travel back to more than 100 years ago. There was a famous French scientist, René Quinton, who was also a biologist, a biochemist, physiologist, and humanist. Actually, these scientists had devoted his whole life to explore the ocean in search of its connection to the human's internal terrain. He found that a component and structure found in the ocean is very, very similar to our body's water environment. And actually, he also spent a lot of his time to study, to do research on the ocean to see how it would help with how his discovery can help humans. And because of his discovery, more than 100 years ago, so what exactly does the live plasma contain? We mentioned earlier, right, that the scientists discovered that the ocean is a source rich in nutrition. And for those with knowledge on biology, you would know that all life forms originated from ocean. An ocean is like a storage of nutrients, and it is a source of nutrition. And why do we say that? Actually, rain has been washing the nutrients in the soil and into the ocean for a million years. Like the rain has been washing the nutrients in the soil out and into the ocean that had been staying in the ocean for a million of years. And certain places in the ocean has vortex movement. As you can see from the picture, it turns inwards. When it turns inwards, it stirs up the nutrients that have been accumulated for millions of years from the ocean floor. And during the stirring processes, many nutrients would accumulate in the middle of the vortex. And this would attract the growth of phytoplankton. Actually, the sea contains many tiny phytoplankton that needs nutrients to grow. As the sea vortex contains many nutrients, right? The phytoplankton would be attracted by it and go there to absorb and convert sunlight nutrients in the vortex in order to survive and multiply. And when there are plants, animals would come along too, right? So the zooplankton are attracted by those large number of phytoplankton, and these millions of zooplankton species digest phytoplankton and deep sea nutrients. After digesting it, they will go through metabolism, right? And we would release something when we metabolize, right? This is just how, like humans, when we metabolize, we will release something. So the zooplanktons will release 78 types of bioavailable elements. And as they have been metabolized by the zooplanktons, these bioavailable elements are microfine and in crystalloid forms and can be easily absorbed by our body. And this is why it can be easily absorbed by our body, and our cells will be able to use it to function. And this is how live plasma came from. So how did it help humans to recover from health? Actually, because of his discovery, more than 100 years ago, when the life situation was very unpleasant, maybe due to wars or when food was scarce and hygiene was poor, like the life condition situation was very, very unpleasant. And because of these circumstances, many babies died due to chronic illnesses, especially gastrointestinal infections. And so a few common ones are like cholera and colitis. And so at that time, he used live plasma to help 70,000 French babies who had gastrointestinal gastrointestinal infections. So you can see from these pictures, the babies went from being in a very malnutrition state into a normal, healthy state. So how did this came to be? Because 70,000 French babies were rescued due to the live plasma discovered by René Quintin. And actually, live plasma was also able to help the soldiers that were injured due to the World War I to recover from their injuries. And so to conclude, what does the live plasma contain? It contains 78 types of trace minerals, and they are in crystalloid form and microfine, which can be easily absorbed by our intestines. So it contains like some protein and etc., but it mainly contains 78 types of trace minerals. And as mentioned, they are in crystalloid form, so they're very, very tiny and microfine, which can be easily absorbed by our intestines. So why is this so effective in replenishing on humans' energy or physical performance? And actually, this is because it has another important component. So, which is that in the seawater, right? Like the seawater surrounding the vortex movements actually contains composition that almost perfectly matches the blood plasma and extracellular fluid of humans. So actually our cells are actually soaked in fluid 24/7, and those fluids needs to be balanced by water and salt. So René Quintin found that humans' blood plasma and extracellular fluid composition almost perfectly matches the trace minerals found in live plasma. And this is why replenishing on live plasma can quickly recover our body's health, as the atmosphere, the composition is really similar to our bodies. So as you can see from the diagram, the levels are very, very similar, very, very alike. And besides having really good absorption, it is also very suitable for our body's internal environment. And last but not least, the most important message to be delivered to everyone today is that we should always ensure a balanced internal environment through a balanced water and minerals levels, so that we can maintain the water environment of our body and ensure that internal-external cells environment is full of fluid. And that is why we need to balance our intake of water and salt in order to allow our body to be in a healthy state. So especially when if we are ill or experience any discomfort, fever, or diarrhea, it would affect our organs' functions, as our body's internal environment is imbalanced. And live plasma is important in replenishing our body during these times, during these situations, especially during this century when we encounter more pollution and we encounter more stress. So this would help to ensure that our body water and salt levels are balanced and that we have a balanced internal environment. So we can replenish them through these supplements in order to allow our body to always be in a balanced state. That's it for my sharing. Thank you. See you guys next week.